What's up, Journee Beelievers? Welcome back to another episode of her Journey Within podcast. It is your host with the most, Symone Ranaye, and I am just very, very blessed to know that I got some believers who just want to make their lives better. They want to be better. They want to be better men, better women, better wives, better husbands, better mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, whatever the case may be. You have decided to become better, and you are entrusting in me to help you get there. You already know this episode is going to be about healing. We are still in our first stage of healing, which is acknowledgement. I know you're probably thinking, when are we going to cross over into stage 2? Let me tell you something. Healing does not come quickly. Healing takes time, and we're going to continue to dive deep and dig a little bit deeper in that acknowledgement stage. Don't think that because you've done the work that there's not more work that needs to be done. And so that's where I come into play. And also understand that you are not doing this alone. I know a lot of times, and I say this a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it, I know a lot of times we feel like we are not doing enough. I know a lot of times we feel like we are the only ones who are going through this particular situation or going through these particular circumstances. I know we feel like life is really, really hard. I know that we are struggling to find our purpose within this healing season. I know we are just trying to just get over it and just sweep things under the rug. I know that's what it may seem like is the right thing to do, but trust me, once you realize and get to the root of why you need to heal in the first place, and when you really are comfortable with acknowledging certain things, you are going to feel so much more free. Each stage requires a different kind of freedom, and we are still in the first stage because we are not truly free yet. We are just touching the surface. But this episode is all about getting deep into what it is that we need to heal from. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about trauma. What is trauma, and how does it play a part in our healing season, right? So y'all know, if y'all ever watch my other podcasts, y'all know I don't like to come with anything just off the top of my dome. I like to do my research. I like to give y'all clear facts so that you understand that I know what I'm talking about, okay? And one thing about me, you can't argue with no facts. You can't. You just cannot argue with facts. So, when we look up the word trauma, trauma is a pervasive problem. It results from exposure to an incident or series of events that are emotionally disturbing or life-threatening, with lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning and mental, physical, social, emotional, and or spiritual well-being. Okay, did you guys know that there are multiple types of trauma? We're going to dive deep into that because you need to understand what it is that you're acknowledging, right? The three main types of trauma are acute, chronic, and complex. Acute trauma results in a single incident. Single means one. One particular incident is acute trauma, right? Chronic trauma is a repeated type of trauma and prolonged trauma, such as domestic violence or abuse. So, acute, one incident. Chronic, a continuance, a repetitive type of trauma, okay? And last but not least, a complex trauma is exposed to varied and multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature, okay? So let's get a little bit deep. An acute trauma refers to a single isolated traumatic event such as rape, physical assault, a motor vehicle incident, medical emergency, a natural disaster, some type of attack. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the different traumas that we face and why it's important that these are acknowledged head first. How I interpret those definitions that I just now read for you guys. Trauma is something that is an event, an experience that you have faced that has hindered you from acquiring new possibilities, new opportunities, new networking abilities that are going to help you in the future. Trust issues. You have trust issues because of a trauma that you have placed. You have anxiety because of a traumatic experience that has taken place in your life. You are depressed because of a traumatic experience that has taken place over your life. You have fear because of a traumatic experience that has taken a place into your life. Why is trauma affecting our acknowledging? Because honestly, we don't want to ever talk about it. We never want to talk about what it was that caused us to be the person that we are. Don't get me wrong, life has a funny way of showing you that it cannot be played with. You know what I'm saying? And the way that we like to say it in our generation, life be life. Okay, life be whipping our ass. Life be just in our grill, like bullying us sometimes. And sometimes life is embracive. Life is accepting. Life can be just the most beautiful thing ever. But then I think life is a Gemini. I'm sorry if you're a Gemini, but y'all two sides. It's like an on or off switch, you know? But that's just how I look at things. That's how I kind of take it for what it is. But giving a little background, last week we talked about faith over fear and why it is so very important to have faith and not allowing your fear to overpower such faith that you have. We also dived deep into why journaling is very important during your healing process, because now you're able to actually write out what it is that you are afraid to speak out, in case you don't have willing participants to listen to what you're saying or try to reconcile what it is that you are trying to heal from, right? Sometimes it's us that we need to heal. We need to forgive ourselves, and we need to do the work for ourselves in relation to certain things that we've allowed to happen to us, or certain times where we kind of just turned a blind eye to something that we know we should have stood up against, right? It's just a matter of different things. So journaling is a healthy way, a healthy form of healing, as far as the physical of what do you do if you don't feel comfortable of speaking out, right? So now that we understand that there are alternatives to healing in the physical form, now we need to address what it actually is that we're going to be writing in our journals, right? So I'm kind of working a little bit backwards. I want you to know that there is a place for you to pour yourself into and pour your heart out in a healthy way, so that you're not burning up nobody's clothes or burning up their house or different things of that nature. But now we need to talk about what it is that you're going to be placing into those journals, right? So we're going to talk about acute trauma, right? Like I said, it refers to a single incident. Happened one time. Physical assault, rape, car accident, a medical emergency, natural disaster. Not saying that these things cannot be a repetitive thing, but typically before it becomes a repetitive type of situation, it has to happen at least once. So let's focus on what trauma can you identify with that happened only one time that has made you feel stuck. A lot of our traumas make us feel stuck. A lot of our traumas make us feel like we don't have it together. And I want you to think about that. And if you have your journal, which is really great, I want you to write that in your journal. Ask yourself, what trauma has me stuck? We don't have to worry about if it's acute, chronic, or complex. What trauma has me stuck? Look, I know a lot of times we have friends where we try to like vent to them like certain things, or we have people that have never experienced what it is that we've experienced, and they're so quick to say, get over it. Oh, don't care about that. Or they'll try to pretend like they understand what you're going through, but they really have no idea as to what it is that you're going through. You ever have a friend like that? You ever have a friend that's always like, yeah, girl, I get you. Or yeah, bro, yeah, I understand. Damn, yeah, I get that. And they really don't understand. They really don't have a clue as to what it is that you're going through, because they've never dealt with that. Because I know I've had that. I've had people who truly just did not understand me, and I already feel misunderstood as it is, because like I said, I think differently. But to know that you have people that will just be like your I understand men or your yes men, and they truly don't get it, is beyond me. Like, we have to do better as friends to be honest enough to say, you know what, I don't understand what it is that you're going through, but how can I be of service to you? How can I help you get through this? I think that'd be a lot easier for people to do, or to be more open and willing to make a change in their situation if there is a solution. Stop going to people with only problems that cannot help you during your problems. Because if I come to you with a problem and you have no solution, I have no solution, then we're just merely feeding off of this problem. We're allowing this problem to grow and it get bigger and bigger and bigger. I feel like we need to be a little bit more honest. Let me scratch that. We need to be a lot more honest when it comes to expressing that we just don't get it. I don't understand what you're going through. And that's okay. You don't always have to have it figured out for the other person. You just need to let them know, I don't get it. Chronic trauma, like I said, is repetitive events. It happens on multiple occasions. It's something that continues to happen. And it's like long-term. If you want to think long-term trauma, think of chronic, okay? Examples of chronic trauma include continuing domestic abuse, bullying, chronic medical illnesses with like invasive medical procedures, homelessness, neglect, starvation or deprivation, ongoing war or combat, and witnessing constant abuse of a partner or family member. This type of trauma is known to have serious long-term consequences that affect an individual's mental and emotional health and potentially even their physical health. This, I would say, is where my trauma is categorized. You know, I've been homeless before. It's a trauma that I have. I'm very fearful of being homeless again. And sometimes I have to work really, not sometimes, but sometimes I put pressure on myself because I feel like I owe that to myself. Bullying. I know a lot of individuals are kids, and I have a lot of kids who look to me for advice and who struggle a lot with their identity and trying to figure out like who they are and their household and their family and their friendships and relationships. And they're getting bullied, you know what I'm saying? And first of all, I don't condone bullying. I went through a period of when I was a kid where I was bullied really badly, where I was like coming home crying every day. And I didn't have a voice. I didn't have anybody on my team to say, you know what? I got you. It stems from me being the only child. I didn't have anybody that was going to be like, okay, I'm ready. Like, oh, you want to bully her? Oh, I'm ready. I didn't have that. I thought I was, you know, I was in a friend group with a lot of girls, and they all turned on me over a boy that I didn't even like, you know, and girls just being who they are, being catty, started bullying me, like started calling me out of my name and saying that, you know, I was a hoe and, you know, like really like tearing my character down. And I have no idea why. Like, I'm literally just chilling. And nowadays bullying is a lot worse. It's not what you see on TV. You don't see bullying always in the form of give me your money, give me your lunch money, and all that shit that they portraying on TV. Not saying that that doesn't happen, but that's not. Sometimes like you get bullied online faster than you would in person. You know what I'm saying? Because we got a lot of internet gangsters, a lot of Twitter thugs who just be, you know what I'm saying? Like they hide behind that phone screen, that computer screen. But bullying is real. And I was bullied over something that was just crazy. Like, I've never been bullied off of my academics because I was always that girl that was getting good grades. I was always that girl that knew what she wanted. And like, I've always been that type of girl. But I was bullied because of my parents. You know, growing up as a kid, like, I didn't care about the latest fashion. I kind of still don't. You know, when it's time to show up and show out, I'm gonna complete the assignment. But any other time, I don't care. So, and I'm working on that. You know, I feel like I need to take a little bit more, like, not pride, but take a little bit more, like, even if you don't feel up to it, still do it to, like, you know, feel better about yourself. But different conversation. But then again, people always had like this idea that they knew who I was, so it was so easy for my mom to believe whatever the teacher told her. No one ever wanted to know why Symone did something. It was always Symone did something. And that was a trauma for me. That fear of speaking out, because I didn't want to like come across as problematic, or come across as problematic, or come across as combative or confrontational. I just didn't defend myself until I realized, F that, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and that's just the reality of what it is. And I don't care how anybody views me. I don't care how anybody views me. I don't care how anybody looks at me. I'm me, period, point blank. And if you don't like it, oh well. But that took a lot of practice. For sure. Complex trauma, I'm just gonna put it in short terms, PTSD. Something that is really severe, that really has you stuck. Like, you are stuck, literally. Triggers, right? And I talked about triggers last week. I wouldn't say that I got PTSD from little things, but not something that is like me going to war and, you know, none of that. Child abuse, neglect, or abandonment. I don't believe that I was ever neglected. I just don't feel like I was ever valued as a kid, and I don't feel like I was ever heard, nor do I feel like my parents knew who I was. Ongoing domestic violence or abuse. A lot of times as a kid witnessing that, it will really like drive you crazy. It would really make you feel like nothing. I've witnessed domestic abuse within my family. You know, arguments and different things here and there. And it caused me to be, growing up, very aggressive. I was very aggressive in a lot of the ways that I spoke, very, very aggressive. And I feel like that plays a part, because being the only child, you have to try to figure out, like, I don't have anybody here to protect me. I have to protect myself by any means necessary. And I'm gonna keep saying being the only child, because you can still be like that. You can still have that same mindset in your household with siblings, you know, and I'm not saying that you can't. But being the only child, you really have nobody. You have nobody to even place the blame on. It's literally the spotlight's on you for the good and the bad. The spotlight's on you for all the attention, everything. Whether you ask for it, whether it's warranted or not, it's still on you. It's still frustrating. You have this pressure. You're alone. You have to adapt. Because some nights I just wanted to just play with my cousins or my friends, and they couldn't come over because they had their own siblings. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a lot. Being forced or manipulated into certain things, such as prostitution, having sex. I'm even going to take that out and saying being forced or manipulated into situations. Imagine how many of us have gone through certain things where our parents manipulated us into doing something for them because they just didn't want to do it, because they knew that by you being the kid, it would be an easy way for you to get what your parents wanted, right? I know a lot of times I was manipulated into asking for money because I knew that by me being the kid, it was going to happen. That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot. And as a kid, you don't understand. You don't really understand the why behind everything. But I was very aware. You may have your own traumas, right? And that's for you to determine. That's for you to actually sit and process. Now you're not acknowledging the person anymore. You're not acknowledging yourself, acknowledging the elephant in the room. You are now acknowledging the trauma. You are asking yourself, what is my trauma? What has me so stuck? And whatever you have in that, put it in your journal, okay? And then read your journal out loud. And then hear it out loud. You need to hear it. Because a lot of times we don't speak out. We just kind of replay everything in our brains. I have trauma of being homeless. I have trauma of being lied to. I have trust issues. I have trauma of this like aggression. I have trauma of fear. I have a lot of traumas. And you don't have to pick just one. Whatever has you stuck, write it down. And acknowledge the fact that this has you stuck. Like, yep, this got me stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, however you have to process it, however you have to do it, however you have to feel about it, whatever the case may be, acknowledge that. And say it with your chest. Fear has me stuck. The fact that I was molested at this age has me stuck. The fact that I'm fearful has me stuck. The fact that I don't believe in myself has me stuck. The fact that I have PTSD has me stuck. Whatever. And don't try to categorize it. Oh, I have acute trauma here and chronic trauma here and complex trauma here. Because all traumas are different. It's processed differently. And it does not matter. Okay? It does not matter. I just want you to understand the level of traumas that there are. And maybe your trauma fits in that particular level. Maybe you have trauma from all three categories. Doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is these traumas, no matter how minute or how severe, have you stuck. What are you going to do to become unstuck? Put in the work. No pain, no gain. Put in the work. Take time for yourself. Love on yourself. Give yourself more credit. You've made it. You're doing the work. Nobody can take that from you. All the people that's making you feel like you're crazy for acknowledging something that happened when you were 8 years old, when you were 12 years old, when you were 15, and now you're all the way in your 40s, when you was 16 and whatever happened to you and you got pregnant. Sometimes we need to heal from the fact that we even allow somebody to enter into our life and alter it to what they wanted it to be. You know what I'm saying? Don't allow anybody to make you feel like what you do or what you are currently doing is a problem. They're the ones with the problem. You're healing for you. You're healing because you want to feel free. So, acknowledge your trauma and don't be so afraid of what may come up, because what you're afraid of coming up is truly what you need to purge. It needs to come up. You get what I'm saying? So I love you, Journey Believers. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Her Journey Within podcast. And I will see you next week. Bye.